All right, let's jump right in. You know that old rule we've all heard a million times? Don't eat before bed? It's supposed to be the golden rule for staying healthy. But what if I told you that's not the whole story? Today, we're going to explore a pretty wild idea, and it was all sparked by one of the most unlikely late-night snacks you can imagine: cottage cheese. So check this out. It all kind of kicks off with stories like this one from a competitive rower. He says he started having some cottage cheese before bed after intense training and noticed he was way less sore. I mean, that totally flies in the face of everything we've been told, right?
So yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? For decades, the advice has been crystal clear. Late-night calories are a one-way ticket to weight gain and restless nights. But is this rule just a total myth, or maybe is it just a lot more complicated than we thought?
Well, it turns out science is actually starting to look into this. A recent study specifically looked at cottage cheese, and what they found was that for active young women, a little bit of it before bed could actually be a good thing for their metabolism and muscle recovery overnight.
Okay, so on the surface, the why here is pretty simple. Cottage cheese is loaded with something called casein protein, which digests super slowly. It's like a slow-release fuel drip of amino acids for your muscles all night long, perfect for repair. But here's the thing, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real magic isn't just what you're eating, it's when.
Yeah, to really get what's going on, we have to go way deeper, into the incredible world of your body's hidden clocks. It turns out our bodies are running on this super precise schedule, and food is one of the main ways we set the time.
And believe it or not, there's a whole scientific field dedicated to this. It's called chrononutrition. It's the science of how the timing of our meals plays with our body's internal 24-hour rhythms. And trust me, this is where things get super interesting. So get this. Inside almost every single cell in your body, your brain cells, your liver cells, you name it, there's a tiny little molecular clock ticking away on a 24-hour cycle. It's this beautiful, complex system of genes and proteins constantly turning each other on and off. And it's all organized in this amazing hierarchy. You've got a master clock up in your brain. Think of it as the main conductor of a giant orchestra. And then you have all these peripheral clocks in your organs, the liver, your muscles. They're like the musicians, and the conductor's job is to make sure everyone is playing in perfect harmony. Okay, so how does this whole system stay in sync? Well, the master clock in your brain, it's basically listening for one major cue: light. That's how your body knows, okay, it's daytime, let's go. But, and this is the key part, the clocks in your organs, they're listening for something else entirely. They're waiting for food to tell them when it's time to get to work. So, you can probably see where this is going, right? What happens when the whole orchestra is playing in beautiful harmony versus what happens when it's total chaos? All right, so here's the deal. When you eat during the day, your body's active phase, your organ clocks sync up perfectly with your brain's master clock. Everything's working together. But when you eat late at night, you're basically creating a massive conflict. Your brain is getting the "it's nighttime, shut it down" signal from the lack of light, but your liver is getting the "hey, we've got food, time to work" signal. And you can see the results of that conflict pretty clearly. On the one side, with aligned eating, all the clocks are in sync. Your body is this super efficient machine. But on the other side, when those clocks are all jumbled up, man, it can lead to a whole host of problems like glucose intolerance and insulin resistance. Basically, the building blocks of metabolic syndrome. Okay, but you knew there was a but coming, right? It's never that simple in science. There is a major wrinkle in a lot of this research that we have to talk about. And in this story, the big wrinkle is a tiny mouse. Yeah, here's the thing you've got to know. A huge chunk of what we know about chrononutrition comes from lab mice. And don't get me wrong, they're fantastic for research, but they have one teensy fundamental difference from us that changes the whole game. See, we're diurnal. We're up and at 'em during the day, and we sleep at night. Mice, they're nocturnal. Their entire world is flipped upside down compared to ours. They're partying all night and sleeping all day. And this is really the core of it. For mice, you can see that what they eat and when is like the main driver of their whole system. But for us humans, it's different. Our bodies are marching to the beat of a hormonal drum. Think cortisol and melatonin, which are tied to our sleep-wake cycle. Let's just put this side by side, because it's really important. For mice, food is king. For humans, hormones call the shots. Melatonin, the hormone of darkness, has almost no effect on mouse metabolism. But in us, melatonin is huge. It cranks up at night and, get this, it actually tells our body to produce less insulin. That's a massive reason why a midnight pizza hits our system so differently than a lunchtime one. Okay, whoa, that was a lot of science. So, what does this actually mean for you and me, back in the real world, in our kitchens? How do we use all this stuff?
After all that complexity, the main takeaway is actually beautifully simple. For the best metabolic health, just try to align your eating schedule with your body's natural day-night cycle. In other words, eat when the sun's up and give your digestive system a rest when it's dark.
Yeah, if only it were that easy, right? Because real life is messy. We're not all the same. Some of us are morning people, some of us are total night owls. And what about shift workers or just, having a social life that involves a late dinner with friends? All these things make a simple rule really hard to follow. And that's the real punchline here. This science isn't about finding some magical one-size-fits-all rule. It's about moving towards something way smarter, personalized nutrition. It's about figuring out your body, your schedule, your lifestyle. So that cottage cheese snack, yeah, it might be a game changer for an athlete, but for someone else, maybe not so much.
Which leaves us with this one last really cool question to think about. As we learn more and more about the power of these internal clocks, what's a prescription for health going to look like in the future? Is it going to be a pill, or is it going to be a schedule? Because it's looking more and more like timing. Well, it might just be everything.